Good evening. We're here tonight at the Board of Mayor and Aldermen for July the 10th. First off, we have a public hearing to request the rezoning of some properties. If you'll look at your agenda, you'll see that there's about 100 different properties that are listed there. I'm not going to read each one of them. I'll give you the reason for the rezoning. That is to bring some non-conforming properties into conformance so that people who own these properties can do upgrades on their properties and make them legitimate properties for the zone that they're in. So with that, if there's anyone here to address the public hearing on the rezoning of these properties, you may come forward at this time. No one's coming forward to talk about the public hearing. We will close the public hearing and we'll open the Board of Mayor and Aldermen meeting, and we'll start by roll call.
Allmacher. Barry.
Here.
Glick.
Here.
Noes.
Here.
Mann.
Here.
Mathis.
Here.
Wilson.
Present.
So we have 6 present. This time I'd like Reverend Marty Nutter. Reverend Nutter, would you please come forward and bring her invocation? And please, everyone stand and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I don't see him, man. I don't see him.
I don't think he's here, Mayor.
Reverend Nutter's not here tonight, so if you would bow with me. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for all the many blessings of life and the freedoms that we enjoy in our country today and the opportunity to come together in an assembly to express our concerns. We ask that you now to bless this body tonight in our deliberations and go with us through this board and on through life. Amen. Please join me in the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Tonight we do not have any proclamations, awards, or special presentations, but we do have an opportunity for comments from citizens. If there's anyone here that would like to address the board at this time, I'd ask that you come to the podium and state your name and address and limit your comments to 3 minutes. You will be on a timer. You listen for the ding. Also, if you have anyone who is donating minutes to you, please let us know that before you begin speaking. You'll be limited to 3 minutes. Anyone wishing to address the board tonight? Comments from citizens?
I'd like to speak, but my son's going to be giving me his 3 minutes.
Please come to the podium.
You know you have to put it on the record and tell them to give you your 3 minutes.
I sacrifice my 3 minutes to her speech.
I apologize. He's still learning about city politics. We're at 702 East Deckard Street. I am Carrie McGarry. I spoke about two and a half months ago here and gave a speech about the rezoning of our area back to residential and putting the commercial where it should belong, on the outskirts of a neighborhood. We've done a lot, accomplished a lot. A lot of condemned buildings have been knocked down. We now have 6 new businesses in the new area where they should have been in the first place. And I gave you guys a social economical challenge with 5 bags of unrecycled and uncrushed cans of litter. I took it to the recycling center and got $3.24 for the city that you should have put in the bank account, like I said, in the first place. So instead I invested with an old car battery, and I brought that up over $8. And because I circled it through the small businesses in this community, I walk out with more than $250 in cash in my wallet today. I also paid my taxes for the year. How do you save Tullahoma with griping and anger instead of loving your city and picking up the trash? You cannot plant flowers in an area that has dirty hypodermic needles in it. So the profit that I have that the city should have made by recycling and upcycling, our backpacks are full. 50 of them. He had 50 empty backpacks. They're full. What did I invest of my own money? $20 in nonprofit volunteering. I got my 20 bucks back, by the way. By the way, like I said, that was $3.24. You come out with $3.23. You lost money. Now we're gonna leave and we're going to the spa. Which Mexican restaurant do you wanna go to? There's 5 to choose from. You know me, I can't breathe. Come on. Social economics, you're losing.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Terry Flagger, 308 Terra Boulevard. I am coming in front of the mayor and board of aldermen upon many citizens. I have hundreds of signatures from a petition here that I would like to present to you. Last Thursday, we just started, and literally have hundreds and much more coming in. We would like you, as our elected officials, to go in front of the Planning Commission and ask for this is what people signed, 2 suggestions. We're requesting an amendment to the Tullahoma Subdivision regulations as stated in the attached document, and I have the attached document for you, I'll present as well, to protect existing residents and property values. We are asking 1, permissible lot sizes shall match the existing lot sizes of adjacent properties, and 2, access to new subdivisions shall not be permitted through existing subdivisions. We are asking that 30 homes be able to, the maximum of 30 homes, go through an existing subdivision if it's a new subdivision being attached to it, as well as adjoining the lot sizes being the same. So we are asking you, as our mayor, board, and aldermen, to go in front of the Planning Commission and present those 2 new subdivision ordinances. And I have all the petitions and everything here. Who do you want me to give them to?
Do you want to maybe leave them with Mr. Pearson?
Sure. No, you're good. Thank you.
Is there anyone else?
Sorry. Oh, she left money here.
I'm Patty Dean, 419 Albemarle, and I'm speaking tonight in support of these proposed ordinances related to the subdivision regulations. I want to take a trip down memory lane back to December 19th, 2022, to the Planning Commission meeting. Some of you remember this. Subdivision plats considered for approval under new business included Gaya Road, Copperas Creek Estates, and Phase 4 of Macon Manor. A zoning map amendment for Oak Park Drive was also considered. Agenda item 8.2, under other new business, was entitled, quote, Text Amendment 9, Revision to Tullahoma Subdivision Regulations for Lot Sizes Adjoining and Access Through Existing Subdivisions. The Planning Commission was given a 1-page report with attachments. The document totals 68 pages. Most changes in the attached subdivision regulations related to replacing the position of senior planner with planning director. However, there were 2 additional things. Section 4-3.2 on lot dimensions included new language as follows. Where a proposed lot in a major subdivision within the city limits directly abuts an existing residential major subdivision lot, the minimum lot size of the proposed lot may be increased to be approximately the same size as the abutting existing lot. The second thing, Section 4-4 related to lot subdivision connectivity. It added the statement, new major subdivisions within the city limits cannot have direct vehicular access through an existing major subdivision, right-of-way and or road stub for more than 30 proposed lots. The Planning Commission heard from a large number of speakers, as outlined in the minutes to the meeting. In the end, neither of these items was adopted. But remember I mentioned the staff report? In addition to outlining the request and background, the staff recommendation read as follows. Staff recommends approval of the proposed subdivision regulation text amendment. So your own staff, your own planning staff suggested, recommended approval of those two subdivision regulations. I am asking, along with all those that signed the petitions submitted here tonight, that BOMA do what is necessary to enact these proposals. Thank you.
Please refrain from clapping. Please refrain. Is there anyone else who would like to speak?
Maureen Burke, 107 Breckenridge Road, Tullahoma. I'm here also in support of some changes to the subdivision regulations and/or zoning. Just what we rely on you as our elected representatives as local government is to protect our personal rights, our freedoms, our property. And so the concerns that I see are that we have zoning that allows for a very broad category of homes, the R1 zoning with a starting point of 12,000 square feet lots. And that's why I think this subdivision regulation amendment is being proposed, is that adjacent to other homes that are on an acre or 3/4 an acre brings in a different category of homes. And then the other concern is the subdivision regulations and the individuals who have the authority to approve certain things with regard to the subdivisions, whether it's changes or even the subdivision itself. I haven't studied up on it recently, but I recall that there is some latitude that the Planning Commission has, who are our unelected officials, and we would like to be able to have a personal voice to our elected officials. I did sign the petition, and I think it's a good starting point for a conversation, and perhaps there's more that we can work together on. So thank you for your service to our city.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing no one else, we'll close the public hearing, or close the public comments. Having heard those comments tonight, City Administrator Pearson, our planning director may have some comments that could help work through this. Would you care to ask Ms. Samdiego?
Yeah, if Mrs. Mary Samdiego would come up and speak on this matter. I know that her staff report was that she was in recommendation of this. She can speak a little bit more as into the law of how this is regulated.
Good evening, board members. Mary Samaniego, Planning Director. This issue was brought up before the Planning Commission at their December 2022 meeting. As one of the residents did speak to that, I did generate a staff report. It's certainly within the purview of the Planning Commission to make changes to their subdivision regulations to better serve the public health, safety, and welfare of the given jurisdiction. However, the authority of subdivision regulations falls solely on the Planning Commission. The Board of Mayor and Aldermen have no authority over subdivision regulations or over the Planning Commission in context of subdivision regulations. As you'll know, no subdivision plats ever come before this Board of Mayor and Aldermen. No subdivision regulation text amendments come before this Board. It's solely under the authority of the Planning Commission per Tennessee state statute, and that's also how it's set up all over the country. I think to better service or address these concerns, the Planning Commission has a public comment period before every meeting. I would probably invite all of these residents to come to that meeting, which the next one is June 17th, next Monday at 4:30, and bring their comments directly to the Planning Commission, who ultimately has the authority.
Thank you, that's helpful. Okay, thank you. Again, With that, let's move into the approval of the agenda tonight. We have a fairly light agenda tonight, but some important things on it. So I'd like to get a motion to approve the agenda. Motion from Barry, seconded by Mathis. All in favor of the agenda as presented, please vote yes and vote no to change. That passes 6-0 with the agenda as presented. Let's go in now to reports from Alderman, and Alderman Berry, we'll start with you tonight.
I have no report, Mayor.
Alderman Glick.
No report, Mayor.
Alderman Mathis.
No report, Mayor.
Alderman Mann.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last week, like most of Tullahoma, I attended the Independence Day celebration put on by our Parks and Rec staff. Around 11,500 people were in attendance to watch one of the largest fireworks shows in the state of Tennessee, enjoy some great vendors, and of course the band's vinyl radio and 6-wire. A special thank you to JP Lyle and the entire Parks and Rec team, our Tullahoma Police and Fire Departments, Public Works, and our sponsors, Nearest Green, Budweiser, and Cherokee Distributing. Also tonight, I will be collecting all the school supplies donated during the past few meetings and adding them to the backpacks we have to be donated this Friday at the United Way Stuff the Bus event at Buffalo Wild Wings. Thank you to everyone who donated, and if you would still like to donate, you can bring any supplies to my office across the street or any United Way drop-off. That's all I have.
Thank you, Alderman Wilson.
Thanks, Mayor. Last evening, I had the pleasure of attending a pool party that was put on for our lifeguards at Splash Island. It was well attended by the kids and staff and their families, and it's just, you know, we have a lot of really good kids that work for us over there, and you know, if anybody's never taken their kids or gone over there, it's really a nice facility that we're very lucky to have. And the staff over there, the Parks and Rec, do a great job of maintaining that facility. I also wanted to let everybody know that at the Tullahoma Fine Arts Center, they just over the weekend opened the Folk and Bluegrass exhibition over there, so please everyone try to attend that. There's a couple acrylics classes coming up July 22nd for children as well as adults, so make sure to check that out as well. At the South Jackson Performing Arts Center, on July 20th, just wanted to make sure everyone is aware that it's the Ice Cream Social is coming up. If you've never attended that, it's really attended last year. It's a fun event. There's at 6:30 they start dance classes, and then there's a competition, lots of food, ice cream, and it's a fun time. So I hope everyone can make it out for that.
Okay, I echo the comments of both Alderman Wilson and Alderman Mann. What a wonderful Independence Day celebration we had, and looking forward to the ice cream social. And last Wednesday, I had an opportunity to do something that I would encourage any of the aldermen to do, or any of the citizens to do, is to take a tour of our Duck River Utility District, our water source. You'll find that the staff that we have there and the facilities that we have there are to be proud of, and Randall Breaker, the chief administrator there, does a wonderful job. So with that, we'll move on with, but before I turn this over to our city attorney, I would remind the audience and the board that we will not be having our second meeting of this month. Our board will be attending a Tennessee Municipal League in Nashville in 2 weeks from tonight. So we look forward to seeing all of our board members there, and look forward to seeing you back on the second weekend in August. Our city attorney.
Paul, y'all are attending
the Tennessee Municipal League. I'll be in Nashville at the same time attending the Tennessee Municipal Attorneys Association meeting that I'm looking forward to. They'll be reviewing all of the legislation that the Tennessee General Assembly has enacted this year. Many of those laws came into effect on July the 1st, so I'll have a report to you after that. I'd like to report to you that we're making progress toward consummating the transfer of property from the city of Tullahoma to the purchasers of the East Carroll Street building, the former Rock 10 building. I talked with their attorney today. We're working on a contract. They have agreed to allow the present tenant to remain there subsequent to the closing of the transaction. They will negotiate with that tenant about their continuing occupancy until they begin renovating the building. So we don't have to be dealing with that anymore. I'd like to report that some property that's been on the tax rolls for a long time, really dilapidated meth house, catty-corner from D.W. Wilson swimming pool on Cedar Lane has been purchased, and it will be demolished, and that property will be cleaned up. Next week, Alderman Glick and I and Alderman Mann and Mr. Taylor from the Department of Public Works and Ralph Graham, a horticulturist, will be walking the downtown area to discuss plans for renovating all the plantings down there and perhaps the installation of more suitable trees in downtown Tullahoma. There is a grant that is available at the present time for more trees in Tullahoma, hopefully to replace many of the aging trees that will be dying because of this virus that's affecting ash trees, and we have 60 or 70 of them here in town that were all planted around 1900. And we're going to try to work that grant through the Tullahoma Community Pride Foundation. I'm a member of the board of directors in that, and we'll be cooperating with the city forester in that endeavor. Do you have any other questions? Or any at all? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Horstman. City Administrator, Mr. Pearson.
I'd like to echo also the work with the 4th of July celebration. Parks and Recreation did an excellent job. Some of the other unsung heroes, as we've mentioned, was Public Works, Police Department, and Fire Department. They were all there involved in the whole event. Very glad to have them and their work with that. Farmers Market's still going on from 3 to 6 p.m. on Mondays. We have a new Linda Reed is our new director for the Farmers Market. She is one of the vendors there, and she was able to take it over. Our past director moved out of town, so we were able to pass that on to her. The railroad tracks on Atlantic, I know they've been talked about quite a few times. We do have it on the books, and we're looking at towards the end of this month, those railroad tracks will be taken out. So on Northwest Atlantic, you won't have that issue with bicycle riding. I was at a business development meeting today with Lynn Seaborn, Winston Brooks, and talked a lot about new businesses, things of that nature that we could bring to our city. Very interesting listening to the marketing directors and how they're pushing for Tullahoma for new businesses, things of that nature. So that's all I have this week. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we'll move into the heart of the agenda, and starting with the consent agenda. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda. Motion by Barry, seconded by Mathis. And we're ready to vote on the consent agenda. Consent agenda is approved 6-1. We'll move into unfinished business. In order to amend the Code of Ordinances of the City of Tullahoma by amending Title 13 as Property Maintenance Regulations. Chapter 3, this is slum clearance, Section 308. This is lien for expenses, sale or salvage materials, and other powers not limited. To remove the words, quote, upon the lien, unquote, and substitute, therefore, the words, quote, become a lien, unquote. I need a motion. It's a motion by Barry, second by Mathis. Any questions? We discussed this in some detail last board meeting. This is passed on the second reading. Bring the answer ready for no. It passes 6-0. There being no other unfinished business, we'll move into the new business. And the new business, the first item will be the ordinance number 1598, upon which we had a public hearing earlier this evening. Again, this is an ordinance to amend the zoning map of Tullahoma, Tennessee, as set forth in Tullahoma Municipal Code, which is ordinance number 1392. This is to rezone a number of parcels that were non-conforming as they were currently zoned, and people were not allowed to make improvements to their homes. With this tonight, with passage of this on the first of 2 readings, this will put those into their proper zones, and people can make modifications to their homes in accordance with the way they're zoned. So I will not bother to read every individual item there in the agenda. So I need a motion. Motion from Barry, a second from Mathis. Any questions? Then vote yes. Green for yes, red for no. And that passes 6-0. We now have ordinance number 1600, an ordinance of the city of Tullahoma to amend the ordinance number 1578, adopting the annual budget and tax rate for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2022, and ending June 30th, 2023. This is simply bringing our last year's budget up to date. And I need a motion from Barry, second from Mathis, and I yield to our city finance director for any comments on what is entailed on this first reading.
Mayor, the good news I have on this is that the original budget that we were working with estimated using a $1.3 million in reserves. And it looks like with the sales tax and the business tax that we've come in this year, that we should be able to bring it down to closer to around $720,000. So that's what we're hoping for. We've got 2 more readings and we'll continue to get more information. We have 1 more sales tax check we're just estimating right now, and we'll have a few more invoices coming in.
And there will be 2 more readings on this as well.
Yes, sir.
Okay, any further questions? Ready to vote? Green for yes and red for no. Passes 6-0. Ordinance number 1601, an ordinance to amend section 5-501 of the Code of Ordinance, City of Tullahoma, to change the percentages of hotel privileges tax allocated herein. This is for the passage on the first of 3 readings to fund the Tennessee Equine Rehabilitation Center and replace Keep Coffee County Beautiful. As I understand, Coffee County Beautiful is not functioning anymore, and this would allow 1.5% of our hotel motel tax to go to the Equine Rehabilitation Center. Motion from Glick, seconded by Mathis. Alderman Berry, you're recognized.
Yeah, so we postponed this last meeting, and some of the questions that it asked were if we could get an accounting of approximately how many visitors they had last year and some of that data. I didn't see any of that in our packets. I did go back and review what was presented during our budget meetings, and from that, it reads that it's not really even open yet. The tourism parts aren't even open yet. So I've got a couple issues with this. Number one, I do want to say that when you go to the Tennessee Secretary of State site and you pull up their information, their charity status has expired. So I don't feel that, number one, I think that negates that period. Your charity needs to be in current status. There aren't any filings in there from the previous years. It looks like it expired in June of 22. So that, I think, does negate that overall. What I do think is that we've got this in front of us, and there are some the tourism, the hotel motel tax dollars. That's the one thing that the city revenue that the city should use to take that money and make more money, right? We're not in the business of making money except for our hotel motel tax. That is the state's mandate for us, is to make money. Something that I know that the city does make money on, and we know is tried and true, are our sports tournaments and our youth sports. And so I think that while we are here, something that I would propose is that let's go ahead and remove that Keep Coffee County Beautiful, but in lieu of the equestrian, let's take that 1.5%, which would be roughly, say, 4,000, maybe more, right? If the investment we make here ends up gaining more hotel motel tax, then money for South Jackson goes up, money for anybody, and that goes up the higher we do that for the city as well. So I recommend that to amend this, that instead of the equestrian, we take that 1.5% and we dedicate it to a sports grant that is used to, in conjunction with Parks and Recreation and our tourism department, to go out and try to capture some of these larger baseball, softball, soccer, once we get the bathrooms, tournaments into the city of Tullahoma. We can use that to say, hey, if you're doing a 2-night tournament here in the city of Tullahoma, a 2-day tournament, that means people are going to be staying in our hotels. There's our revenue. If you've been to these tournaments, they're each going to bring in, they're over 1,000 people comes to each of these. Each team's got up to 12 people. They calculate 1.5 people additional per that. And then we can take that and say if it's a 2-night. And then if you do a smart scheduling, these can be worked out, but these are examples. A smart scheduling to where every team has to have a minimum of one slot where there's an hour and a half in between their next game. And that says, all right, they're going to go out and they're going to eat at our restaurants, at, Whiskey Trail and other things around it. And so that would be we're here, we're doing it anyway. So I'd like to make a motion to amend to.
Alderman Berry has made a motion to amend the motion that was on the floor presented. We need a second. I'll second the motion to continue the discussion on this because you've made the amendment and we're not ready to vote on the amendment just yet. I don't know if you're finished with your comments, but I would ask that we consider the benefit as you're suggesting, as opposed to with the equine rehab center. How many horses might be rehabbed there at one time?
I think they've got one right now. But my counter to that would be this money is not, it's the hotel motel tax. That money is supposed to be used on tourism, marketing, or development. And I get that they may, when they do their 4-H and they do some of those, but we don't know. They may get 2 visitors. And the expectation for me is if we give you $1, well, we expect $1 minimum back, right? If we give you $4,000, we expect a minimum. And it's not, that 1.5% has just been sitting here. So if we take that 1.5% and we invest it into something, that it takes that 1.5 and it triples. Say they make an additional $15,000, $20,000. Well, that's money back into the city of Tullahoma that we can use then to pave streets, because part of that goes to our budget. That's money that goes into South Jackson. That's money that goes into the Fine Arts Center. So when we invest that money into something that we know for certain is going to make more money, that helps us accomplish all those goals.
And do any of you know how many horses, the maximum number of horses that we might have at this center? Is that a fair thought to consider? I believe the number is 1 horse per 2.5 acres is what our code says. So that particular tract is 5 acres, so they could have 2 horses. Is all they might have. So that's kind of stretching it to make it a tourist attraction.
They also, in the...
Alderman Wilson, you're recognized.
Yeah, in the rest of the stuff that I had hoped to put in the packet, it's more than just the rehab services. They also do deal with education about the numerous breeds, including Tennessee walking horse, which is a huge part of our tourism in the wider area, Shelbyville and so forth. And it's also They're part of the Tennessee Walking Horse Alliance. It's a program that works with industry, show trainers, owners, and auction companies while accepting horses to relocate to various accredited facilities. Educates the public on the Tennessee Walking Horse breed, show inspection processes, and show industry. And also, there's a community involvement aspect to it as well, because they're going to later this summer open up the grounds because it's just such a special place over there. It's a historical barn, for one. It's a beautiful section, beautiful property. But they want to open it up to the public grounds to use for multiple different reasons. So it would have that, and then the 4-H program that they want to start. So.
Thank you, Alderman Wilson. Barry, you have any further comments? Yeah, stood and see you.
Yeah, I think that all that is great, and it would be a great addition to the city of Tullahoma. But what I would like to see is none of those programs are operating right now. None of them. And I'm sure that every business, every destination in the city would love for the city to help them get their business going, and whether nonprofit or not.
They do have a rehab program.
What I would like to see is for them to come back next year, once they've got a baseline, and say, if you give us X amount, we're going to turn it into this, and here's the data to prove that. And then, reconsider that. And then I think part of our regulations is you've got to be current in your nonprofit status.
Yeah,
So
I didn't see the
it's
information
right here.
that you're talking, because I have seen their
It's right
their
there.
certificate.
If you go to the Tennessee Secretary of State website in the registered charity search, and you search for Tennessee Equine in Tullahoma, their CO 41101, their status is expired in 2022. So I think that negates that period.
Okay, I'll call the vote on the amendment. The amendment is to change the allocation of the 1.5% from the Keep Coffee County Beautiful to sports tourism. Alderman Click, you're recognized, sir.
I just wanted to ask more details on what the proposal is to do with the money. How would the money be spent to attract tournaments? Would it be through marketing our facilities? Would it be through paying for a tournament to come here? Or I know Parks and Rec is funded to do things already. Is this just money going to go into their budget, or will it be banked in a fund that could be rolled over?
I think that it stays as, my number one recommendation is we allot that money so that it's there, because they don't have $4,000, $5,000 they can just go spend out that's not already in their budget. But then we work with our tourism, and I talked briefly with JP about this briefly earlier, but we work with them to form some sort of a grant. Manchester has a great grant that they're using to draw in and poach tournaments. I worked with Shelbyville as their interim tourism director there for a year, and we used this grant to, I hate saying poach, right? But that's what we want to do, to go out to another tournament and say, hey, if you do this, this, and this, we'll pay your field fees out of that, and it comes out of that grant, and we use that to draw them here. We're thousands of dollars are made at these tournaments for our small businesses and for the city, and the larger that we can get, the better.
Yeah, I'll call the question on the amendment, Alderman Berry's amendment. Ready to vote on the amendment? That amendment passes 4-2. Okay, moving on. Ordinance number 1943, an initial resolution.
We got to vote
Yeah,
as
the main
amended.
motion.
Let's go back to the original motion as amended. Ready to vote on the original motion as amended.
So this would make it with the sports.
So the amendment was to change it from the equine to the sports, and now this will be to change it from the Keep Coffee County Beautiful to the sports.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Ready to vote? And that vote passes 6-0. New resolution number 1943, an initial resolution authorizing the incurrence of indebtedness by the city of Tullahoma, Tennessee of not to exceed $7.5 million by the execution of the public building authority of the city of Clarksville, Tennessee, of a loan agreement to provide funding for certain city projects. Need a motion to start with, a motion from Barry, a second by Mann. And with that, I'd like to yield the floor to the city finance director to talk about this first step.
Yes, Mayor, there are two resolutions on the board tonight. The first resolution is a issuance resolution that sets a 20-day protest period. It lets the general public of Tullahoma know that we're contemplating this debt. And then the second one is actually for issuing the loan. So you would go ahead and, if you approve these resolutions tonight, there will then be a 20-day period for public notice, and then at which point we'll be looking at closing documents, and we'd be closing the loan probably around September. It's looking like interest rates would be closer to 4.8 at this time, and by doing a construction loan with a draw pattern, we should be able to save between $600,000 to $800,000 in interest expense if we compare it to the last time that we did a loan of this type in our draw pattern. So this would enable us to address a lot of the projects that you all discussed in the work session.
Thank you. We discussed this significantly at our last study session, so this is carrying forward with actually proceeding with it at this point. Okay, any further questions? Call the question. That passes 6-0. Okay, the next resolution is a companion resolution which actually authorizes a loan pursuant to the loan agreement between the city of Tullahoma and its public building authority for the city of Clarksville and the execution of $7.5 million, authorizing the execution and delivery of such a loan agreement and other documents relating to the said loan. Approve the issuance of a bond by such public entity authority, providing that the application of the proceeds of said loan and the payments of such indebtedness consenting to the assignment of the city's obligation under such a loan agreement and other such matters. This would allow us to accomplish a number of the things that we would not be able to do without a tax increase, we will not have to use this money under some of the stringent regulations of the ARP funds that we can, which do put some strings on timing for getting it done. So I think this would be a good step forward. Need a motion. Motion from Barry. Second. Got a motion and a second by Mann. Any comment from Barry?
Yeah, just to expound a little bit on what you said with the ARP funds is, an example of this is our soccer bathrooms, right? So for these and a lot of the projects that are in there, when we're using federal and state dollars, which we were doing through the ARPA funds, you have all kinds of ropes, like environmental studies and delays. And so what Sue proposed, that was an incredible idea that would allow us to get these things done a little faster, was to do this, issue this debt, so that we can immediately get started on these projects and not have to, these, like when we do these sidewalks, the Cedar Lane, it's been going on for 2.5 years. It's in progress, but it's a 5-year project because you're using state money. And so this allows those projects to get done sooner. And
any further comments? Call the question. Passes 6-0. Moving on to item number 23-127. This is consider a 5-year engineering consulting services agreement with St. John Engineering to authorize the mayor to execute the same. This is a continuation of the contract that we currently have with St. John Engineering, which details are on page 108 if there's anyone that care to detail that. But look at those details. First need a motion. Motion from Barry, seconded by Mathis. Any questions? Ready to vote?
Oh, I had questions.
Okay, excuse me.
I know this was an RFQ. I had questions from staff of where this was advertised. I saw a copy of, it was put in the Tullahoma News.
Butch, if you'd like to come up and...
It was advertised in Tullahoma News, it was advertised on our website, it was advertised on the state's DBE website.
Yeah, I mentioned that in the item. Did, I know last time, 5 years ago, when we asked for this RFQ, there were several people that responded, and this year we only had one. Did we reach out to any of the firms that responded last time?
We did not. We put it out to our normal procurement process. We've had folks, I've got 2 other RFQs out. We had, I think, an engineer firm called Sue about one of them that's seen it on our website and probably on the state's website. A lot of these projects, engineer firms, they'll get on the state's website and seek out projects that they're interested in.
I know at least one of the other firms that applied last time was interested in doing this, but they weren't aware of it because of how it was advertised. So what I'd suggest is that we maybe go through the process again to get other people who may be interested in putting in a proposal on this, because it is a pretty large contract. I know we spent just over $200,000 with Scott St. John last year, and this is a 5-year term, so if the spending level stayed at that, it could be worth $1 million. So, and with only one respondent, and for that size of contract, I think we should probably maybe be a little bit more proactive in our announcements and contact some other engineering firms. So my suggestion would be to let this go out a little longer.
If I may respond.
Please do.
It's difficult to do it on this level of what we do. If you look at Mr. St. John's Engineering per hour cost, if you look at any other firm outside of this area, you're going to double that cost. Now, whatever that is, the budget's been approved. If you seek someone else and we go and evaluate someone else and they get it, you've got to go back probably 5 projects that we have in the works and get someone else to get back in that. It's kind of difficult. That's the reason why a lot of people don't swap firms. It can go back and cost us more money in the long run. I'm certainly up to whatever the board tells me to do, but a lot of times they don't seek it out.
All right, Alderman Glick, do you have an amendment that you wish to make?
Yes. Propose amendment to not approve this tonight, but seek additional proposals, contact the people who applied before, potentially advertise by other means or whatever it takes. If no one else applies, then we'll revisit this a month from now.
Do we have an amendment? We need a second, but we don't have a second. We do have a second from Wilson. Okay, Alderman Mary, you have your hand up.
As clarification, one of the firms reached out to you and said that they wanted to apply, but they did not know about it?
I reached out to them.
I don't know, I could see maybe putting it out there again where we did before, but I don't think it's appropriate for us to reach out and say, hey, because say we call these three, then what happens when that fourth person says, well, hey, you called and gave a special invitation to these three people, why didn't I get a phone call? So I think that's a slippery slope. If I was one of those businesses that didn't get called with a special invitation to apply, I would be pretty upset about that.
Alderman Glick.
That's just standard practice. I've been involved in putting out these RFQs with the city for over 30 years, and that's what we did when we wanted to get a lot of proposals in. There's not many engineering firms that are going to look in the Tullahoma News classified ads to try to find work. So what we would do when we wanted a lot of proposals, because the best thing for the city is to have a lot of proposals to choose from, not just one. So what we would do is we would go through the listings of businesses and call them engineering firms. We would call them, email them, or whatever, to ask them to consider putting in a proposal for our project. It is the prudent thing to do, because the best thing for us is to have more than one to choose from.
Alderman Berry.
I would say just because we did it in the past doesn't mean that it was the right thing to do, or even the legal thing. If we're going to reach out, then I say we get a list of every single engineering firm in the state of Tennessee, and we email or call all of them, not just a handful of selected. I mean, it just, that's not, I am not comfortable with me. I mean, I don't reach out when I know that bids are out. I don't reach out to people that I know and say, hey, you should do this. There's a state website for this. And that's what, they don't look in the Tullahoma News. They should be subscribing to those things.
Alderman Mann.
Just to clarify, how long would this be? How long would we be extending it? Another month, did you say?
I suggested another couple of weeks, possibly.
2 weeks.
For them to turn it in, to have it back to the board in a month.
And then we're talking about folks reaching out, who would be reaching out?
I would say
is that in your amendment, for folks to reach out, for someone to reach out?
Public Works staff, finance staff, whoever does whoever puts out the proposals.
Mr. Taylor, you're recognized.
To put this back out, it's going to take longer than a month to do that. We'll have to go back through the whole process. We'll have to submit it back to the newspaper, our website, the state's website, and to get it on the DBE website, it takes a little longer than that. So we have current projects. St. John's contract is through September, so that shouldn't be a problem from that end of it, but it could put it back out and slow us down with some things we've got going on right now. So.
Well, if we've got till then, if his contract's good till September, then that gives us time to do that. So I would suggest taking what time is needed, and
I will have to get with Sue. I know she's shorthanded since Paige is out, so like I said, it may take longer time getting us all put back out and sent back out.
Well, thank you, Mr. Taylor. I'll call a question on the amendment to extend the time to get quotes. The amendment ties, so it fails. So we go back to the original motion. Original motion to extend the contract to St. John. We're ready to vote on the original motion. That passes 5-1. Very good. There being no other new business, the Board of Mayor and Aldermen will be adjourned, and we'll call the beer board together. Tonight we have on the beer board, are there any public comments for the beer board? Seeing none, we'll go to the consent agenda. Need a motion to approve the consent agenda. A motion from Mathis, seconded by Glick. Ready to vote? That passes 6-0. There being no other unfinished business. There being no other new business, the beer board will be adjourned. Thank you everyone for being here tonight.
Thank you all. I've been trying.